many folks in such a rush to reach a lofty goal. Along the way we lose our sense, some we lose our soul. Where are we running? What's the hurry? What about God's time? The joy is in the journey, and the past is left behind. The joy is in the journey, and the joy is in the time between the thought and the commitment, the reason and the rhyme. Wishing, hoping, praying that we'll find our special role. Savoring the journey is what's gonna save our soul. Fame and fortune, Nobel Prize, president or king, we ride the carousel of life, grabbing for the ring. No need to smell the flower, no energy for love, focused on the prize we seek and not on God above. Worried we won't make it, certain no one cares. Where's the fun? Where's the joy when we're caught up in our fears? What's the purpose of my life? I ask myself each day. It can't be just surviving, there's a bigger game to play. Serving one another, going for the win, to bring the world together in happiness again. The joy is in the journey, and the joy is in the time between the thought and the commitment, the reason and the rhyme. Wishing, hoping, praying that we'll find our special role. And savoring the journey is what's gonna save our soul. Savoring the journey is what's gonna save our soul.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I would like for Joel to tell us a little bit about him. One of the featuring things we want to do in our show is to have someone who has a history with the farm community where we're recording the show, and someone who knows a little bit about the topics, since we're talking about things in relation to spirituality and different plants and things that can lead you there. We would like to hear a little bit about Joel, and he'll be sharing his thoughts on the different aspects that we're going to be discussing about the book. Joel, just a brief introduction, please.
Great. Yeah, it's a privilege to be here. As you were asking me before, if I was ever interviewed before, this will be my second time, and I have a lot to say, and hopefully I won't say a lot of it. But when I met you at the swimming hole the other day, you said you're going to be having a conversation about psychedelics. I mean, that's how you introduced it. And I've met you many times, since you've come to the farm. And I like you. And I just wanted to please you. And over the last day or so, I've had a lot of conversations with myself about what am I getting myself into. And but I'm basically, by profession, I'm a dentist. That's my most legitimate claim to what I am. over 55 years, still practicing, setting up a not-for-profit dental clinic in Pulaski, Tennessee, with the 12 tribes community. And that's another topic for one of your shows also. Fascinating people. And basically, I was the typical dentist, went to Columbia University Dental School, got out, went into the Air Force, became a captain in the Air Force, then became a lieutenant commander in the Public Health Service, National Health Service Corps, opened up a clinic in Apalachicola, Florida. And basically, I used my dentistry to do everything else that I do. Whenever I stopped doing dentistry and didn't have the money to do the things that I wanted to do, I went back into dentistry. And it's only now, after 55 years, that I'm really thoroughly enjoying doing dentistry and being appreciated for it. And a lot of it has to do with the topic we're talking about, and that's my quotation marks, enlightenment. And I'm writing a book right now called Almost Garfunkel, and it's a book about my relationship with Paul Simon, my relationship with Al Pacino, my relationship with just so many notorious. No, good, very good. Noteworthy people, actors, actresses. Robert Klein is another one. Patch Adams is another one who's a friend of mine. And it just happened, like Forrest Gump. It just happened that way. Wherever I showed up, people were there, and a lot of times they were not famous at that time. They just got to be famous over the years. And let's see. My experience with psychedelics. There's actually a chapter in my book which I pulled out of myself. Now, what am I going to say in a book that might be read by a few people about psychedelics? Well, I remember the time when one of my friends, also a dentist, turned me on to the first joint that I ever smoked. Then a same person who turned me on to LSD and just said, this is something that's really special. I want to share it with you. And I was there with my first wife, and we said, why not? And that was my really one, what I would call enlightened trip that I took. And over the years, I tried LSD again, and it just didn't have the same effect for me. Also, how I met my wife was in Gainesville, Florida, as my wife Betty, and I hope she won't mind this, but what made me adore her in the beginning was I watched this tiny lady, small lady, climb a fence, go out into the fields, and go where the cows went, and pick the mushrooms. And those experiences that I had with the psilocybin, with the psychedelic mushrooms, were very gentle, very easy, friendly, happy experiences. The LSD experience was a very, mind-bending experience. And, with the full galaxy of colors and electricity and all of that stuff. And I see a lot of heads nodding. Yes. Okay. And over the years, 40 or so years, on and off, I would smoke. Didn't really feel like LSD was something I wanted to do again. I just got that whatever I was supposed to get from it, I got from it. Same thing with the mushrooms. And I've just been very well guided. And even when we did the LSD, we did it out of the Tibetan Book for the Dead by Timothy Leary. And, we had a guide, we just did it by the book. And then read, of course, at that particular time, in fact, I was privileged to see the galleys of Ram Dass's Be Here Now. in Miami because we had friends who were friends of his. And
So Joe,
basically, just let me say this about what you were just saying, Ryan, about the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that. How I hold all of that, how I've come to hold all of that is, it's all a story. It's all a story, and we make up the story. Which story we choose is the story we choose. Which stories resonate with certain people, and which stories don't. And I have the thing that's different for me now than it used to be is that it doesn't really matter to me anymore. It's just a story. And if the story empowers me, if the story makes people come together, if the story has people love one another, if people creates a possibility for the world and for, community and whatever, relationships, it's good.
Joel, when you during your experience with the psychedelics and the psilocybin mushrooms, I caught the part where was it your wife? Or
yes.
She wasn't your wife at the time,
No.
but she became your wife right. Later. She went out to the field and grabbed the mushrooms from the
But
cow
as soon
patties.
as I married her, she stopped climbing the fences. Isn't that what they all say?
I was going to ask you, when you had those initial experiences with psilocybin mushroom, what was your thought? Did you feel like you were coming into like a Christ-like consciousness, or convening with God, or what was your feeling in that state?
The movie Shallow Hal? Anyway, that's sometimes how I feel about my outlook on life. That if it resonates with me, it resonates with me. And that's all I can say about it. It felt good. I was happy. It was the first time I ever had a really, not about the weather, about the politics, or what, a conversation with my brother-in-law. I remember walking down the road in Gainesville, Florida, and we were just both high on the mushrooms, and it was just a pleasure being with him. No cynicism, just, I love you. It's so nice being with you. And that's basically what my life is about. It doesn't matter what somebody's belief is. It's just like, how is he? How is she? That's the only important thing for me. But in talking about this whole thing, have you guys been into A Course in Miracles at all?
I've never taken a course. No.
No, it's not a course. It is a course, but it's 3 books. Jesus supposedly came to this lady who was a secretary in the psychology department. She might have been a psychologist then. And said, start writing. And years later, she stopped writing. But supposedly, Jesus spoke to her. And A Course in Miracles is in every language in the world, and and millions and millions of people. But it's outrageous. And like you said, it's outrageous. And there's Jesus saying, all the stuff that the Catholic, the Christian religion didn't say about him. And again, what he was saying was, it's all about love. It's all about forgiveness. It's not about, oh, poor Jesus went on the cross and, that was my choice. That's what I did. That's what I had to do. Mm-hmm. But don't use me, for you to be against anything. Mm-hmm. So it's a very loving message. I have to put a picture in here, besides my book, Almost Garfunkel. What I say came out of my psychedelic experiences was my music. And what my music is about all that stuff. Some of it's funny, some of it's cynical, some of it's satirical, but it's the basic message is, write your own story. Make it inspiring with laughter and fun. and give thanks to God for Life 101. That's the song, Life 101. But anyway, again, it's the story. And what does the story do? Does the story bring people together? Or does it bring people yelling and screaming at each other and, who's smarter than who and whose interpretation, my newest song, I have it on the pad, is, "It was just my interpretation running away with me." And that's all that it is. And I hear you talking about John Allegro the same way my wife talks about Rudolf Steiner. And I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner also. You talk about outrageous. Whoosh. I mean, off the charts. But, when you come right down to it, who cares?
Yeah. Predominant theory of Christ, or the predominant history of Christian religion is that Jesus was friendly to the Romans. That morphed into the Roman Catholic Church. During the Reformation, people broke off from the Roman Catholic Church, and here we are today. And what's interesting about the Dead Sea Scrolls is that when they were translating these, the church, the Roman Catholic Church was very surprised at what they were finding out. They were hoping that because this was an earlier writing at the time of the Jewish revolt, that it would confirm the story of the New Testament, the story of Jesus in the New Testament. Well, it was actually opposite of the official narrative of Jesus. And for a long time, the church kept a lot of the different segments of the Dead Sea Scrolls because they were afraid of the impact that it might have. And it wasn't until the 1990s, by just some happenstance scholar in a library, where he found these on a shelf somewhere. And then that's when it all came to light again. And so, getting back to what I was saying earlier, for me it's important to understand the root of these religions, and to have an idea of maybe a different narrative or a different story about what Christ was about and what these early religions were about. Because religion is very important within our culture. It has a lot of power, and the narrative of Jesus within that context has a lot of power. And if our original interpretation, or the political interpretation of Jesus, is not correct, then I think it's important that this alternative theory is brought into light.
You see, I get what you're saying, and maybe that's why I don't pick up too many books. Because I'm shallow, and I just don't want to get into it, because it's like watching TV and watching one candidate and another candidate. They're both saying the opposite thing, but it both makes sense. And it's like, yeah, that's right. And yeah, that's right. But at the same time, it doesn't matter which is right, which is wrong. It's what resonates with me, trusting myself. And if the message is one that, again, is about, us all being in this together, making this work, having life be heaven on earth, all those, conversations, okay. But to see people, kill each other, go to battle, go to, King Arthur, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is, if that's where it's leading us, then who cares who's right and who's wrong? Who cares?
There is no evidence that it was an...
I've met many brilliant and learned people who've studied the books of the ages. Experts and teachers, professors and preachers, gurus and great minds, scientists, sages. Still as I wander
then Jesus said unto them,
have any type of emotional response to either being discriminated because of their use of psychotropics or having had negative experiences or things like that. At that time was a time to explore things, to experiment, to pursue different perspectives.
One of the late night shows, John Lennon was interviewed and said, when he was asked, well, would you say that you smoke marijuana? He said, no, I wouldn't say it. And that's why you hear all these noted people, as they're ready to die, they're on their deathbed with cancer, they tell their story about how for the last 45 years they've been, smoking marijuana, and all the scholars who had said in the past about how evil it was and listed all the reasons why it was. One of my spiritual teachers, it was Werner Erhard, who was the founder of the S Training and now Landmark Education. And he said, understanding is the booby prize.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
No.
Okay, sorry.
You sit with that, and just see how it hits you.
And I guess prior to leaving it to interpretation, every human being's encounter with their life, with tradition, with their experience is precious. I think that it's easy to dismiss other people's experiences because you don't like them or they didn't work for you. So to have that understanding that when it all comes down to it is we've all been given this amazing opportunity to explore the universe. That's something amazing that we all have before us.
And to love one another and to forgive one another.
And
that's what's going to get the job done, ultimately, not who's right and who's wrong.
I feel that if religion doesn't make a change for the positive, then it's pointless. And some people find meaning in other type of ideas. So if after all these experiences people cannot reach out to other human beings, then it's really a pointless exercise to even pursue knowledge or experience or anything that might fulfill us, but it doesn't change us or transform us to be a greater person.
And my personal experience with that is with respect to transformation and feeling love and loving others and seeking understanding. My personal experience with psychedelics helped me with that quite a bit. I guess why I'm so passionate about this is that if these substances, different psychedelics, can have the same transformative impact on me, I believe that they can have the same impact on others. And if over the years more evidence comes out and it becomes more accepted that it's possible that the Christian cults were using, or the early Christians were using mushrooms, then it might allow for Christians now to come around to this idea that, hey, God created everything. This is the belief within a lot of religions that God created everything, and if He created everything, He also created these mushrooms or these plants. And maybe it won't be such a big deal to embrace these plants and to start using them in the spiritual and sacred sense that they were used in the past. With respect to transformation in the time period that you had experience with the psychedelics, I'm assuming that it was during the late 60s, early 70s, or...
I was a late bloomer.
Yeah, okay, so... But there was a lot of people during that time who had experiences with these substances. The farm itself, it's not likely that we would be here today if it weren't for people who had spiritual experiences with these substances. So even if this theory of John Allegro and other people is somewhat controversial, I think it's really important because I think we're coming to a point in our culture where it will be acceptable to use these substances. They're being studied right now. There are different churches that have formed based on these substances, and so I just think it's really important to not dismiss what these scholars are saying, and to if you're interested in delving into it, to delve into it, because I think there's a lot of good that can come about by embracing these substances in a sacred spiritual way.
What's the expression? Whatever turns you on.
Exactly.
I have a question. Do you know much about Cannabis Spirituality, the book? Because I haven't had a chance to read it.
I know nothing about the book.
Okay, have you had a chance to read it?
I haven't read it.
Okay, because what I've heard is that there was this idea that cannabis had healing powers and that there was a contradistinction with alcohol. that alcohol had negative effects and that cannabis had pretty much, it was the potion that could heal all things. So maybe in the future we'll have someone who's an expert on the topic. Too bad we can have the writer of that book here because he passed on last year. But I think that's the idea of when the farm was created. It came from that perspective that particular drug had a special place and that a spirituality could be affected or move forward with it. There was a documentary where they interviewed one of the Beatles, and he was saying that he was tired as a Catholic to hear all these stories about people talking to God and angels and stuff like that. And that until he went to India, he had a chance through drugs to have access to those same type of experiences. From a traditional perspective, the question is, do you need those to get to that point? And the people who have those experiences are seen in the traditional world as having that extra spark. There's a writer that says that regular people have a glimpse of the heavenly realm. Mystics experience it every once in a while, but prophets have access to it. So I think that supernatural stuff can be seen from a rational perspective in the sense of, is there a way to measure those experiences? Is there a way to conceive of any form of experiences outside of our realm in metaphysics? And that's what the philosophers up until the 1800s felt, that there was a way for people to connect with that. And they believed in some type of God to get them in touch with that. So I think we will have more discussions about this. Again, as the mystic and the skeptic, we want to really get into the heart of stuff and are getting a little too into it. Just know that that's where we grow, that's where we learn from one another, because we take things seriously, and we appreciate people who kind of make us take a step back and say, hey man, relax, take it easy. When it's all said and done, it's all about love.
Hi.
Amen.
When I came into this world in 1943, my mom and dad were struggling just to feed the family. I remember my brother Joey tugging at my mama's dress, asking for more than she could give him, but he asked nevertheless. I grew up complaining that life wasn't fair, and how I'd make it better once I could get out of there. I grew up complaining 'cause I couldn't see that the only one getting in my way was me. Out of high school and into college, by the time I was 17, I had to remember so many facts I was forgetting how to dream. I rocked and rolled away the years, getting horny and getting high. Strawberry fields, nothing was real but pimples and pizza pie. I went to school complaining that the system wasn't fair, and how I'd make it better once I could get out of there. I went to school complaining 'cause I couldn't see that the only one getting in my way was me. The only one getting in my way, the only one getting in my way, the only one getting in my way was me. The only one getting in my way, the only one getting in my way, the only one getting in rainbow. As I tried to make things happen, I was up, then I'd fall. Something or someone kept keeping me struggling. Yet deep inside myself I knew I could have it all. I could have it all. I found the perfect someone. She was perfect, at least for a while. We had a couple of children and we managed to have a few smiles. Life was really comfortable, but nothing much turned me on. I even had thoughts that the world would be better if I got to be gone. Then one Sunday I remember I got really clear. I knew I wasn't ever gonna make it any better if I couldn't make it here. I quit complaining, 'cause it was plain to see that the only one getting in my way was me. The only one getting in my way. The only one getting in my way. The only one getting in my way was me. Yeah, the only one getting in my way. The only one getting in my way. The only one getting in my way was me. The only one getting in my way is me. Yeah.
Amy's gonna be 18 years old on Saturday. And now it's Wednesday, 4 p.m. and her daddy's running late. He's managed to forget her birthday 2 years in a row. Now he's going crazy, 'cause there's just 3 days to go. Scribbles on a notepad by gas and Amy's car. First he's got to make a business call, and driving's getting hard. It's snowing now in Nashville. He shivers as he dials the phone in Eckert's parking lot. He stops and starts to smile, laughing loud now at himself. He runs inside the store, picks out the perfect card, and soon he's heading out the door. He drives down Broadway to the post office and finds a place to park. He buys a stamp and Amy's card, leaves Nashville before dark. Sending Amy's card's the start of many things he'll do, now that he has learned that love's the only way that's true. He hadn't been a thoughtless man like most. He was the kind who listened to that voice inside his head and paid it mind. That voice had run him all his life and told him not to share. Don't get too close to anyone, 'cause no one really cares. Maybe Amy would be angry. He had to be on guard. He took a giant step today in sending Amy's card. Before he left the building after sending Amy's card, he dialed and made a call to home. His wife was in the yard. She rushed inside their house and out of breath she said, "Hello." He said, "I love you, I'll be late. I thought you'd like to know." She asked if he had sent a card to Amy in New York, or tear fell from his eyes and it was difficult to talk. I even wrote a note to Amy's mom. Now that was really hard. Thanks, she said, for calling me and sending Amy's card. Thanks, she said, for calling me and sending Amy's card.